What up there, One Pride? This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where One Pride goes worldwide. My apologies for that opening just there. I don't know what happened. My screen wasn't coming up, but we're there. So welcome to the college football podcast, the first of a double header this evening of Roar of the Lions UK podcasting. We will be out later with the Miami Dolphins preview. They're coming to Ford Field this weekend. Myself, Matt, and a few of the other guys are going to be on later. But for now, you've got us at the College Football Podcast. Ryan is just entering the building with us, so we'll just await his arrival there. But thank you to everyone who's joined us this evening. I know Ash is in the Twitch chat. Grandizer is in the building on YouTube. Really appreciate you all joining us this evening. Det Fanman is here as well. Thank you to you, good sir. I've got my initial hiccups out the way, it seems nice and early. So yes, welcome to the College Football Podcast, the TCU TKO with THT. Like I say, my name is Anthony Fitzpatrick. I am joined by Ryan McCluskey, who is just entering the building. And while he does, I'm just going to get the housekeeping out the way before we drop down into the main show. So as you know, Roar of the Lions UK Discord. If you wish to come get involved with that, just hit us up and we will send you a link to that. A lot of good chat and not going on in there at the moment. The Roar of the Lions UK main podcast, as I say, that is coming on later this evening. We will be talking Miami Dolphins coming to visit the Detroit Lions. Don't forget to like and sub to all our channels. We have just passed 600 subscribers on YouTube. We can't thank each and every single one of you enough for backing us on there. We really appreciate it. We are making the bold jump up to try and get 1,000 now. We realise that we have to get better, the content has to keep evolving and improving, and we are fully committed to doing that. So hopefully you will stick with us on the journey to 1,000 there. And to everyone else who joins us on Twitter, Twitch, the like, we really appreciate you. And obviously don't forget Lions Nation Unite as well, the app created by Herman Moore, run by Detroit Lions fans, content creators, creating content by the fans for the fans. So that is everything for the housekeeping as we welcome into the building Ryan McCluskey. And I must say, the birthday boy Ryan McCluskey. Well, it was his birthday yesterday, but you know, still there in spirit. So I didn't get a chance to say it to you yet, Ryan, but happy birthday. Hope you had a great day. Hope you enjoyed that and the college weekend just gone by. How is everything?
Yeah, good, yeah. Regular football let me down in a massive way, but like I said, Bradford always do, so you can't rely on them. But did a bit of work. That was about it. It was like the most standard, nearly 30 birthday you could have had. Mum got me some walking boots and some pants to take the dog out. I think that's the most mature thing I've probably ever got for a birthday. So here's to 30 and on next year.
Yeah, providing, you know, the Detroit Lions, watching them too much doesn't age you in an accelerated fashion. Ryan's preparing for his big trip over to New York in a few weeks now. It's getting ever closer. He's coming to watch the Lions versus the Giants, so that's something he's very much looking forward to. And if any of you are going to be in New York at the time, if you're going to the game, let us know. Maybe you'll get a chance to meet Ryan in person and hear one of the legendary Ryan's rants in person. So some good incentive for you to go and watch the Lions at the Giants there. Right, let's say, let's crack on with some college football. So with us having a couple of pods this evening, format's just going to change a little bit to what we normally do. So we're going to go through a bit of the latest of college football news. There's not too much, but we're going to go through that. Then we're going to take a deep dive into week 8 of the college football season. Going to do our reviews there. The FCS review and the uniform reviews, all that sort of stuff we do, we're going to save it up for next week and do some bigger segments on those there, because this evening we are going to be doing our half-season mock drafts for the Detroit Lions. Now, if you're kind of wondering at home, like, hang on, we're not halfway through the season yet. This is the college football season we're going by. Halfway, I mean, we kind of passed it now. We meant to do it last week, but last week's show was so big we didn't have a chance to fit it in. So this is the rough half college season mock football draft. Me and Ryan are going to let you know the players who've caught our eye who we would like to draft so far, and then at the end of the season, once all the bowl games, etc., everything are done, we will redo our mock drafts again and see how much they've changed in terms of personnel, etc. We like to see how each other's thinking partway through the season And then we're going to finish off the show by looking at the Week 9 slate of fixtures. So, a lot for us to get through today, so we are going to dive straight down into the news. And, we'll say hello to Hank as well. Hank has joined us. Hope you're doing well there, Hank. Star of the show as always. Really, really appreciate that. And we've had a subscription at Tier 1 from a part-time Ninja Turtle on Twitch. Thank you ever so much. It goes whoop whoop. Thank you for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. So yeah, let us get down into the news. So where is my thing? So head coaching departures. It's been strangely quiet these last 2-3 weeks. I don't think we've had a head coach firing since week 5. However, that balance has finally snapped. The next guy is gone, and it is Charlotte 49ers coach Will Healy who has been fired. Now, if you'd have told me that 9 weeks ago, I would have been shocked. The final straw for his 1-7 49ers team came this weekend after, quite frankly, they got trounced by a Florida International team that themselves have been whipped by UConn and needed overtime to beat FCS team Bryant. Healy's not been helped by an injury to starting quarterback Chris Reynolds, who has been in and out the team because of it, but there's an impending move to the American coming up for Charlotte. It's a big step up in quality. The 49ers have decided that results are not acceptable, and they've acted swiftly to try and get the ship in order before they make that big jump up to the American. For Healy himself, this is a really big blow for him, because at the start of the season he was amongst probably what you would say is just a couple of candidates in the G5 coaching ranks who people considered to be good enough to make the jump up to the Power 5. He's done alright at Charlotte in the last few years, given them decent foundations to build on, but it's just really not worked for him this season, and now he's going to have to go and find a new home to rebuild his reputation and make another attempt at getting into the Power 5, because it ain't going to be now. He finishes with a 15-24 record at Charlotte and is 10-14 in the CUSA. They're 0-4 this year, so he was 500 before the season started. But this would have been a shock at the start of the season, right? If you were guessing coaches who were going to be fired this season, you wouldn't have had his names. You wouldn't have had his name in the list, but results matter, and he ain't been getting the results.
No, and I thought they could do okay this season. I thought they might just, maybe ball eligibility. They might be able to just get something going. Have one last crack in the division conference already in before they make that big move. But it started badly, and it's just not got any better. It doesn't help. They've not had your starting quarterback, but that's not an excuse these days. You've got to be able to overcome that. You've got to have guys that are able to step in at a moment's notice and be able to lead the team. But on both sides of the ball, they've just been bad all year. Very lack of inconsistency. And if they'd have waited until they made this move to decide a change, that could have been pretty disastrous going forward. So I respect the fact that they've done it now, and that they've got to just clean slate, clean house, ready for their move to, say, the Mid-American. And things are only going to get harder and more difficult, so they've got to get this hire right. The hire's got to come in and know that the team is finishing its period on a downward trajectory, but you've got to be able to come in and prepare them for a step-up in challenge. You've got to probably bring in a quarterback with you as well, and at least some players. So it's going to need someone with an experienced job, because they're going from the fire pan straight into the fire, I think. So next season could be very difficult, to say the least. If this season was bad, next season could be terrible.
Yeah, exactly. The defense was incredibly bad last year. It's not gotten much better this year. The offense has stagnated because they've not had the quarterback there. So, like I say, whoever comes in next is going to have a job and a half on their hands. But, I'm not laying this one down all at the head. Usually it's the head coach's fault for balls and everything up. Unfortunately, it's not worked out for him, and I will expect him to get a job pretty quickly, probably at another G5 school somewhere. So, it'll be interesting to see where he lands, because good chance he might be able to make a go of it if he's got the right opportunity. But Will Healy fired as the Charlotte 49ers head coach. That is the only one this week. Grandizer in the chat says Ryan in New York. will not be like when Mr. Bean visited New York. No, it won't. Like an angrier version of Mr. Bean, but hey-ho, yeah. Right, the other bit of news I had, I just want to quickly talk about this, not in much detail, but I don't know if you've seen, Ryan, but the Big Ten's 2023 schedule has been released, and, you know, out of curiosity, I took a little look at it, and my God, they say the SEC hide away from their, you know, non-con schedules and make scrub schedules up, but Jesus, the state of some of these non-cons that they've got next year. I mean, take the biggest team, so Michigan. They are Michigan have 3 home games, right? So they're playing East Carolina, UNLV, and Bowling Green. And then I believe they've got Rutgers at home to start the season off. So that's theirs. Ohio State, they're playing Youngstown State, Western Kentucky, and in fairness, they do have Notre Dame, but I mean, that's 2 gimmies there. The hardest non-con I saw out of all the teams was Minnesota, and they play UNC and Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns. I mean, good God, man, none of them have been brave with their non-cons at the moment, are they?
No. I look at Michigan's, and up until like Minnesota in like week 6, it just looks like another cakewalk. Like they're just trying to rack up 5-0. Position themselves nicely in the AP poll and then just go from there. So yeah, they're really just not even going to get out of second gear in those first few weeks. Like, and I get it, but at the same time, it's not great for a neutral. No one really wants to see you have just cakewalks on your schedule. Yeah. I mean, they'll be paying these smaller teams a lot of money, but just to get their ass kicked, to them it's probably worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's the same, but you would like to see a bit more competition. It's like you say, it's a long time into their schedule until there's any real competition. It's like this year. I mean, I guess Maryland, they struggled with a little bit, but Penn State was the first big task. Obviously, they wiped the floor with them, but we're halfway through the season now, and you're getting your first big challenge. It's, yeah, you'd like to see a bit more. Obviously, you've got Ohio State, Notre Dame again, but you don't know what the hell you're going to get with Notre Dame next year. They just look bad at this moment in time, but yeah. Big Ten schedule. We'll have a look more at the schedules at the end of the season because we'll do more in depth to that. But yeah, just thought it was interesting to have an initial look at that. Right, that is the news. So let us dive straight down into the Week 8 review. As I said, we're going to save the uniform stuff to next week because we have a lot to talk about now. In fairness, this weekend, a little bit quieter than some of the weekends we've had just gone by, although it would have been hard to top last week with Alabama falling and a whole slew of ranked teams and whatnot falling, but still a lot of good football going on this week. So we're going to start, obviously, all the case. If you're in the title of the show, your match gets talked about first. TCU in the title today. Kansas State at TCU last week. Myself and Ryan, I both believe better on Kansas State for this one. However, TCU, there's something about them this year. They are getting the job done, sometimes almost in spite of themselves. So this ended Kansas State 28, TCU 38. This started off very badly for Kansas State. They lost Adrian Martinez, the quarterback, right at the start of the game, basically on the first drive. However, the backup Will Howard came in, scored touchdowns on 4 consecutive drives for Kansas State. They were absolutely tearing through TCU, and it was 28-10 just before the half. TCU, however, just got a score just before halftime, and in the second half, I don't know what they did, but they just changed things around and the match swung away from them. Like I say, it was 28-10 at one point, but then Max Duggan, he threw for 2 touchdowns. Kendre Miller rushed for 2 more. The TCU defense in the final 38 minutes of this game, they held the Wildcats scoreless. They had 2 turnovers and 2 missed field goals. The backup quarterback, Will Howard, as I say, he began the game 8 for 10 for 185 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he scored himself on a rushing score. But after that, he went just 5 for 10 for 40 yards and an interception from that point, and he was injured briefly in the third quarter as well. I mean, I know maybe there's a bit of luck in here play, but by hook or by crook, Ryan, this TCU team, they seem to start games very slow and fall behind quite a bit in some cases, but they fight their way back in, and they are gritting these results out week by week, and they are one of just 6 teams left in the country unbeaten now. I mean, for as much as there's luck involved, there is some skill in there as well.
Yeah, if Martinez don't get hurt, I don't know how this game pans out. Maybe it's very different. It's impossible to say. I think TCU one of those teams where they trust themselves to be able to get into games. Like I say, they don't drop their heads when things don't go well at the half. Like I say, they were going in a good chunk down before they decided to get a kick up the arse and then go firing all cylinders and come back and make a game a bit and take the win. There are teams out there that they just can't do that against, but so far they're yet to meet one. They're yet to meet someone who can just put them away and doesn't let them creep back in. Everyone else they've played so far has been prone to making mistakes, but also they've forced errors out of teams to get back into games. Like I say, Kendra Miller, another great game. A really just potent rushing offense that just has big splash plays, really explosive, and a QB that is having his best year probably in his final year. The defense can be carried at times by the offense. Actually, a lot of the time throughout the season, the potency of the offense has made way sometimes for an average lackluster defense at times. But yeah, so far they've got a bit of luck. They've rolled the luck, but it doesn't seem to be running out, and they're edging closer and closer to potential title game, to potential college football playoffs, because in a week or two we'll get our first top 4, all the rankings, and they're going to slowly be knocking on the door. Like, they're impossible to rule out, even if I don't think they'll get there in the end. They just can't be ignored, and they won't be ignored.
I think they had 2 ranked teams left on their schedule this year. This was one of them. Obviously, the Big 12, don't matter if you're unranked, it's still a dangerous conference and anyone can beat anyone on its day. But this was one of the big tests on paper left for them, and they say they did it. I mean, Max Duggan, 17 of 26, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns on the day, no interceptions. I mean, he's looking after the ball incredibly well this year for a guy who's a running quarterback usually. He seems to have actually become a passer this year, and a very, very good one at that. He's dug his team out of some massive holes. Kendre Miller, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns. The playmaker shows up. Quentin Johnston, going to talk about him in a bit. 4 receptions, 74 yards, a touchdown. One of the best wide receiver, candidates in this upcoming draft here. They've got this holy trinity of good players on offense who are turning up week in, week out for them, and that seems to be what's doing it for them at the minute.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting because at least 2/3 is going to leave at the end of the year. I think Duggan probably got the draft. You usually go to your draft in the best season you've had, and this is the best season he's had, is having a Heisman caliber year, so you don't rest on your laurels, they'll declare. Quentin Johnson, like I say, one of the top leagues in the nation, he's gone. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they reload. But I think actually this team program after this year will actually do really well in the portal. They could probably get a pretty big name if someone like Quinn Ewers left. It could de facto stay in Texas. Might upset a few people, but I wouldn't rule it out. So let's just see if they can keep concentration. I'd hate for them to slip up against a minnow at the end of the year, because a lot of teams do that. They take their eyes off the prize when the big boys have gone. But yeah, if they want it, there's a Big 12 title game there if they want it. But they just have to keep concentration now, as the supposed big boys have been and fallen by the wayside.
Yeah, there's no bigger example of that than UTSA last year, who let that unbeaten record slip right at the end when they got blown out by North Texas. It just soured what would have been a perfect unbeaten year for them there. So yeah, TCU got to keep their eye on the ball here. The defense, in fairness to it, after those 4 drives, 38 minutes, not giving up any points. They were highlighted by Mark Perry and cornerback Travius Hodges-Tomlinson. He had a sack and a very important pick on the day. He's the THT in today's title. That's Travius Hodges-Tomlinson, the cornerback there. On Kansas State side, like I say, Will Howard, the backup, came in, did very well. 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, just the 1 pick. Completed 13 of 20, so decent stats for a backup. Juice Vaughn is Juice Vaughn, one of the best running backs knocking around. He averaged 7 yards a carry, another touchdown on the ground. There wasn't a lot he could do about this one, just the momentum was squarely TCU's way. But well done to them. Right, we are moving it on, and one of the games of the week we highlighted last week, we were very interested to see whether UCLA were ready for the Pac-12 championship, whether they were ready to go up against one of the top dogs, cause an upset and really put their name into the conversation here. But right, unfortunately this week they came up a little short. They lost their unbeaten record. Oregon Ducks won this one 45-30, and we'll just straight up by say this wasn't on the offense in this one. This was an all offense game. Both defenses looked a little bit rough in this one, but unfortunately for UCLA, they gave up, I think it was like nearly 30 points in the second quarter. It was just one quarter when they just basically, as they say, completely lost their minds, and they were never able to recover from that onwards, which is a shame. But unfortunately, it was we kind of pontificated about it a bit. Is this UCLA team mentally ready to do it? And annoyingly, they weren't, Ryan.
No, like I say, you can't win a game in the first half, but you can lose one. When you have such a bad quarter, you give yourself an absolute mountain to climb, and it couldn't happen at a worse time. This is a huge loss, especially in the Pac-12 title race. This was one team that really couldn't afford to lose to, because our team's breathing down the neck right now. So an in-conference loss like this could be very detrimental to the season. Oregon have started a lot of games recently really fast. Like I said, Bo Nix is just right now firing out the gates. He's running the ball just as well as he's throwing, maybe even better. His rushing of late has been fantastic on design runs, and the defense in this game did enough. Like I say, it gave the offense the ball, it gave them time to work with, and they kept UCL at bay when it needed to. So right now, Oregon firmly in the driving seat in the Pac-12, I'd say now. Look like they're going to nearly book their slot in the game for a championship. But yeah, I'm not going to write UCLA off just yet. But let's see how they bounce back from this. A very bad loss that'll hurt. They wouldn't expected to ship 45 points, but we're going to see what they're really made of now mentally, how they bounce back from this. But yeah, the Ducks, like I say, under their first time coach, the old Georgia defensive coordinator, having a fantastic year. Like I say, I did not expect him to look so good in the first year under this new stewardship. But yeah, they're out there scoring very heavily week in, week out, and the defense is making plays even though it's conceding points. They still concede a lot of points to Oregon, but they managed to do it mainly when they put games to bed, or their offense is able to just keep their noses ahead most of the time. So it's going to be interesting to see if someone can come in and shut down this Oregon offense. Can their defense win them a game? Because I'm not convinced it can.
No, it feels like Oregon's downfall is going to come in a slugfest this season. I mean, you saw what Georgia did to them. The defense just... Or if you come up against the defense that's good enough, but there's only one defense that's as good as Georgia in college football this year, which weirdly enough resides in the Big Ten, where you wouldn't expect it to. But, I mean, just the tale of this game. So, the success rate, offensive play-wise, UCLA was 59%, Oregon 56%. That's both above 95th percentile in how good it is. 6.2 yards per play for UCLA, 7.2 yards per play for Oregon. Explosive play rate, 10% for UCLA, 15% for Oregon. That again is 15% is 94th percentile. It's a very explosive offense. Third down success rate was low, but both teams didn't really have many third downs, which explains that. 1,000 yards of offense in this one. It was split fairly evenly between the sides. I mean, it was 57% to 43 passing to rushing for UCLA, 37 to 63. So Oregon rushed the ball 63% of the time, which is quite a lot, but it was effective in both these cases. Defensive wise, this was a terrible game for them both. The stop rate was 16% for UCLA, 0% for Oregon. Basically, UCLA scored on pretty much every drive they had. It's just a lot of them were field goals. I mean, I guess it technically counts as a stop, but when points go on the board, it doesn't. So both defenses struggled. There were no sacks in this game. There were 11 tackles for loss, but 9 of them were in the running game, so there was very little in terms of pass rush in this game from either side. I mean, offensively, everyone filled their boots. Zach Charbonnet, another great day for him. 151 yards and a touchdown, 7.5 yards per carry. Jake Bobo, the wide receiver from UCLA, he had another 100-yard day. He's a name coming out there. But, you mentioned Bo Nix, 283 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, he's having a Heisman caliber year as well at this moment in time. And it kind of hurts to say that given how much gip we've given him over the years.
I mean, he's having a Heisman year, yeah. Like I say, he's had to leave the SEC to do it, which is a shame. Like, for me, Oregon, I don't see Oregon making the playoff. Like I say, I think they'll have whispers and names in contention. There's every chance Bo Nix will be a Heisman finalist. Even if Oregon don't make the playoffs, he should still be considered at the time because he's probably the biggest impact transfer player. I can't think of many more players that have transferred and made such a big impact this year. There's a few, but he might be the best. So, yeah, he's looking like he salvaged his draft stock, that's what I will say. At Auburn, it was non-existent. When he played big teams at Auburn, he just went into his shell. But now, against some lesser opposition, but he's getting the job done. He can only beat us in front of you. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens next year, because I reckon at the Combine, no one will outperform Bo Nix. I think he will blast the Combine and he'll look really good doing it. So if he went in like the second, third round, would I be surprised? No. I won't want it to be us, but I think someone will fall in love with Bo Nix. I think they will really like that proper dual threat capability he offers. And he's got a fantastic frame. He's strong. He's just put it all together in 1 year. So yeah, the sky is currently the limit for him. Like I said, now he wants to go win a championship, get a Pac-12 ring, and who knows, maybe sneak into a playoff. But they've got to win out. They can only have one loss.
Yeah.
No 2-loss Pac-12 team will get any consideration, even for a good bowl game. So yeah, the job is not done yet at all.
No, absolutely not. And they've probably got to hope that some teams take wins off one another going forward, especially out of the top 4 currently. They're going to need
TCU and Oregon. They need each other to lose another game.
Yeah.
Sneak in that 4 spot.
Yeah. Or they need Bama to lose a second game or whatever, and Michigan and Ohio State, one of them take one off the other, and we'll see. Mike's in the building. Thank you for joining us, Mike. Hope you are well as always. Hopefully, look forward to chatting to you on your show a little bit later.
I was just going to say about Oregon.
Go on then.
Is it just me, or I'm so disappointed in Flo and Sewell? I just don't see it.
Yeah.
This season, I was like, oh god, those two could be brilliant. I'm sure Justin Flo was I know he's had injury, but the 5-star, 4-star recruit, whatever it was, I just don't see it. I've just not seen any production. I've seen him look lost out there. And Sewell is good in phases, but I don't know. He's kind of just, when the stars and the lights are all on him now, he's kind of just gone into hiding a bit at the totally wrong time.
See, I'm not really a PFF grade guy. You know that from the main podcast. But I was looking earlier just out of curiosity, and it was a case of his rating has dropped by over 20 points this year. He was pretty consistent. He was 72, 74 his first 2 years. He's down 52 this year. So even PFF are noticing a big problem with this game. Now I know it's not the be-all and the end-all, but yeah, very, very, very disappointing. They've got the quarterback, Gonzalez, who's there. But I mean, this is a secondary that's getting shredded through the air as well, so I'm not feeling easy about any of these Oregon defensive prospects right at this moment in time. They're certainly not the first team I'm going to for the draft when I'm thinking about that. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm completely off Sewell now for the time being. He's just not shown it for me this year, and there are other guys who are. So interesting one to keep an eye out for. But yeah, I think Oregon are going to meet their maker eventually. Speaking of making them makers, next up, Texas, Oklahoma State. Now, we kind of bet on Oklahoma State the other week. They lost to TCU in a game that they absolutely should have won. And then they go into this week and you're like, are they really going to be able to beat Texas? Are they really going to be able to beat Bijan Robinson, etc. and co? But, beat them they did. They were losing in this one going into the final quarter, but Texas went anemic in the second half of this, put up 31 points in the first half, 3 in the second. The Oklahoma State Cowboys win this one 41-34, and they scored quite consistently through this. 10 points in the first quarter, 14 in the second, 14 in the fourth, whereas Texas just went flat out bad after the half here, and fair play to Oklahoma State, who seemed to adjust to whatever it was the Longhorns were doing, but Quinn Ewers did not look himself. He was, get this, 19 completions, 49 passes. I mean, I'm thinking that's, not even 40% completion, or it might be 40%. Is it 40? I think it's 40% completion on the day. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions for just 319 yards. Bijan is Bijan, 140 yards and a touchdown on the day, 6 yards a carry. Xavier Worthy, as always, 78 yards and a touchdown. Bijan got another receiving touchdown. He went 41 yards. So he had 2 touchdowns and nearly 200 yards on the day. So he's just carrying on, been running back 1 here. But, I mean, Oklahoma State found a way to win this one. Spencer Sanders, 34 of 57, 391 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Dominic Richardson got 3 touchdowns. He had 13 carries, 24 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1.8 yards per carry, but got 3 scores on the deck there. And the defense, I mean, they played lights out in this one. What's the guy's? Jason Taylor, I think it was. He's the safety. He picked off Quinn Ewers twice in this one. They also got a bunch of sacks on him as well. Really roughed him up here. But I mean, this is the really frustrating thing about Oklahoma State, isn't it, right? I mean, one week they look bad. I mean, they threw that TCU game away, and then they go and destroy Texas. They could be unbeaten now, if not for last week, and they could be in serious consideration for a playoff game. And it's like, it must be really frustrating for the coach when you lose that one last week, and then you come from behind against arguably on paper a much better team. It got to be infuriating as a coach.
Yeah, I think Mike Gundy is one of the best coaches in the nation. I think he is really underrated, and he is a good recruiter. Like I say, he manages games well. And this side, like I say, Spencer Sanders should be in the Heisman race. Oklahoma State should be a 1-loss or unbeaten team because they're very well balanced, as you say. They don't go all gung-ho and then get looked knackered in the second half, which Texas did. And they're probably really frustrated. Like, I love the running back stats. Like I say, he took a proper sledding, got absolutely not going, but in the red zone was absolutely mustard and punched it in. And I watched the game. Quinn Ewers, yeah, he did look totally off. There was like 40 seconds left on the drive to try and get back in the game, and he just threw the laziest, lackadaisical interception. He just floated it out to the sideline, and safety just came underneath it and just took it. And like, they didn't look any intent to fire it in or to try save any clock. It looked like he just wanted the game to be over with. So yeah, Texas now, I just don't trust them. Like, the only reason now to watch Texas is for Bijan Robinson. The guy literally can do no wrong. It doesn't matter how bad they are, or his draft stock does not really mean anything in their success. He can just carry on chugging away and leave them to it. He's done the hard work now. So yeah, his 2 sides, frustrating. Both should have had much better seasons.
Yeah, I agree. It's a case of Bijan watching it, and Xavier Worthy, but I kind of feel sorry for him in a way because his stock will be affected by this and all. Ash thankfully clarified it was 38.7% is the completion rating for Quinn Ewers net last on this game. 38%. Jesus, that's bad. That's really, really bad. So yeah, that's I can't believe it.
Maybe he shouldn't have played. Maybe he wasn't ready. Maybe he's been rushed back.
Yeah,
I think he was rushed back.
Yeah, he may well have been. You never know with this one. But the big thing here, and the stat that jumps out in this game, so red zone success rate in this one, Texas 25% in the red zone. That is really bad. It's 20th percentile. Oklahoma State in the red zone, 69%. So that's 90th percentile and above, that is. So they converted a lot. When they got in the red zone, they got points, whereas unfortunately Texas didn't, which is really, really surprising given the playmakers they've got on that team, that the red zone success rate was so low. I mean, third downs only 21% as well. That's where it came to. Those third downs, the red zone plays, they just were not able to do it. So that is a bad loss for Texas, and that's their season done now. They need one more game to reach bowl eligibility, but I mean, outside of that, you don't really see a lot for their season.
They've wasted the best running back they've had in years, and that's really sad. They might not find another like him. They might not find another guy as good as him for years to come, so they can only have themselves to blame. And if Xavier Worthy, if he enters the portal, if he decides I'm done, goes back to college, won't surprise him. Demarion Overshawn, wow, his draft stock has plummeted. He decided to go back this year to try salvage it, and he's looked bad. Yeah. That Texas defense has just been rinsed all year. Like, he's going nowhere come April. So for a lot of these guys, it's ending on a sour note, I feel like, in Texas.
Yeah, it is. It's a shame, and Arch Manning's on his way, but not going to be enough to not going to be enough to save them. Is it? Yeah, 3 losses. Is he going to want to go here? Who knows? I think this was just pushing him maybe closer to the door. I still think there's going to be a decommit along the way. It never felt right that he was going there, but he may do. He may shock us. He may go and try and rejuvenate that entire franchise, but we'll see. Right, let's move on to the next one, and nearly a shocker in this one. SMU and Cincinnati. So Cincinnati went into Tanner Mordecai's house. They looked to be cruising to victory in this one, but a fourth quarter where SMU put up 13 points and Cincinnati put up zip ended up incredibly close to throwing this one away, but Cincinnati narrowly won this 29-27 in a game that was one more for the purists. Offensively in this, really bad. Cincinnati 4.62 yards per play on offense. That's 15th percentile. SMU 3.51 yards per offensive play, and that is with one of the most explosive quarterbacks in college football, or it used to be. That's 3rd percentile. That's just how bad that is for them. The offensive stats across this are bad. 5% explosive play rate for Cincinnati, 7 for SMU. That's 15th and 32nd percentile respectively. I mean, in this game, 4.6 yards per offensive play for Cincinnati, 3.5 for SMU. This was really rough sledding. The rush, I did not expect this to be such a rough game. Tanner Mordecai, 15 of 25, 105 yards, a touchdown, an interception. I think he got hurt in this one as well. His backup Preston Stone came in, was only 6 of 15, but got 74 yards and a touchdown on the day. On Cincinnati's side, Ben Bryant, 18 of 35, 200 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Kind of serviceable game manager is what we kind of worried he might be going there, trying to replace last year's Ridder, and he's not really got it done there. Charles McClelland on the ground, 16 carries, 129 yards and a touchdown for the Bearcats. Decent day for him, but really overall a day for defense. I mean, Cincinnati went to town on SMU. Jaheim Thomas, 2 sacks. Ivan Pace Jr., the linebacker, 2 sacks. Dante Corleone, a sack. Justin Woodley, a sack on there. I mean, they really beat up on the SMU QBs here, but they nearly threw it away as well. It was kind of a disappointing game between these two.
Yeah, I feel like it would be as well. Like TCU, SMU, just such a weird team. Like, say they can be spectacular, they can be awful, they can be great, they can be terrible. It seems to be every week you get something different, and this was one of the worst weeks. It might be the worst game. One of the worst games Tanner had, probably before he got hurt, like you say, especially as now he's come in and taken over this team. But he's just so up and down. The level of inconsistency is just maddening with that offense. And then to no run game, when Ulysses Bentley left, he took all the run game with him. SMU just don't have one. They just don't play complementary football. And their defense, look at Navy. They just limped over the line against Navy. Their defense ruined. And then Cincinnati, Ben Bryant just isn't a good quarterback, I don't think. Cincinnati need to go out and find a QB because he's just not it. Like I say, to go from like Ridder to him is like off a cliff. I know their defense is good, but that offense just can't go up against the better defenses. Just ain't good enough. Ivan Pace Jr. has had a really good year as one of those impact transfer guys. Just continues to have a good year. But I feel like this was just one of those games where you just have to survive any way you can. It was pretty bad for the majority, and they got through it. So they'll be just glad of that.
I mean, I was about to mention in there, if you weren't going to, Ivan Pace Jr., that's been one of the success stories for Cincinnati. I mean, since they are 6-1, but you're running that American table, which is not great at the moment. Remember, I think SMU and Houston were the closest rivals there last year, and SMU, even though they've only just narrowly won this one, they're still not good enough to really try and knock them off the top of this. But Ivan Pace, in a year where a lot of the high caliber linebackers are struggling and seeing their draft position drop, this could be a perfect year for him to really kind of shock a lot of people and maybe go a lot sooner in the draft than people anticipate. Because like you say, that's still a good defense in Cincinnati, and he's been at the heart of it.
Yeah, he's probably worked his way into... He's day 2 player now, but before his move, he was probably a day 3 guy, so could have earned himself an extra few million. Could have gone from the 5th round to the 3rd round, so he is the biggest winner probably in the whole Cincinnati program right now. I'm not sure where they go. Like I say, 6-1, but I feel like they need to find definitely a new signal caller. I think that conference is probably going to get a bit harder as well in the next few years. As I said, there's moves lined up. They might get a few more additions to make it a bit more interesting. But yeah, they dodged a bullet. SMU, God help them when Tanner Mordecai leaves this year. I don't know where that program's going at all.
No, it's weird, isn't it? Sonny Dykes leaves, TCU, all of a sudden the Golden Boys, their future looks very bright. Transfers probably coming in anew, unbeaten, getting college game days, stuff like that. And SMU have just completely faded into obscurity. It seems that he was a big part of the reason why they did so well there. And to watch TCU, that just must sting even more. To watch TCU performing so well this year, whilst their season is basically a crash at this point.
Yeah, the Iron Skillet, there's a good chance it could be in Texas Christian hands for a few years. TCU, SMU lost Danny Gray, Reggie Roberson, but that's no excuse for an explosive offense. I think it's Rashid Rice, like the young man they've got receiver that's doing well, but there's no help. There's no one helping. He is Tanner Mordecai's only target from what I've watched this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Hash goes, so all the big name linebackers are flopping. If only there was a guy who was doing really well for a P5 school who's going under the radar who could be a great mic for us. Tatum Bethune is not coming to the Lions. I think it's Tatum Bethune he's on about. I could be wrong, but no, Ash, there's still some more going yet before I'm on that particular train. Right, bear with me just a moment. Where are we going next? We are on... Alright, so we've just been giving lip service to a quarterback whom we've scorned a lot of hate on over the years, and it hurts a lot. But now we get to go to a quarterback who we've poured a lot of scorn on over the years and is doing terribly at his new team. One Keaton Slovis, Ryan. We all very comfortably predicted that last week Pittsburgh were going to march into Louisville and do away with them. I don't think I was so confident about it, but you were. This Pittsburgh team is very good, especially defensively, and you're thinking, yeah, they're going to nullify this Louisville team here and we'll be all good to go. But no, Louisville wiped the floor with them. This one ended up 24-10. I mean, I say wiped the floor. This was a very, very defensive game, which, you know, for Louisville is weird. It was 10-7 to Pittsburgh going into quarter 4, but Pittsburgh fell to pieces and they just were not able to come back from this. In Louisville's side, Malik Cunningham was 10 of 21, 122 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Not really a lot going on there on the day. Marshawn Faulk got a touchdown, Josh Lifson got a touchdown. Running games was pretty decent, 11 for 75 and 9 for 46 from their two guys, averaging over 5 yards a carry each. On Pittsburgh's side, Keaton Slovis, 16 of 29, 158 yards, and 2 interceptions. No matter where he goes, picks follow him, and defeats seem to follow him as well.
Yeah, this was a terrible game. Like I say, Malik Cunningham, everyone, I think, and most people have just gone off at him. He's just a glorified running back. Like last year, his youth flash as a dual threat. I feel like this Louisville team has regressed immensely. Their defense has been exposed for a lot of the year. Offense at times non-existent, and Pitt shot themselves in the foot. Any other time, this should be a fairly comfortable win against a Louisville team that is so dependent on one player carrying them that it's just no excuse for not being able to generate some offense. Clovis, like I say, I thought he was going to have a good resurgent year in Pitt. I thought the tools are already there. You just need to step in and take the reins, but I've been surprised he's not been able to do it as well as I thought he could have done. So I'm very disappointed. I'm disheartened by that. Like I say, everything was in place for him to have a good bounce back year, but two really disappointing teams played a disappointing game, and Pitt's season now is just going to fizzle out.
It is.
Unfortunately. And with that, so is Keaton Slovis as well. I don't know where he goes from here.
He's gone. He's. I don't think anything real major is happening with him. But, however, when one door closes, another opens. And last year, a certain guy was buried beneath Kenny Pickett throwing for 4,000 yards in a three-way rushing rotation. But one Israel Abanikanda has been able to get some game time this year. He's no longer part of a three-man rotation. He's a one-man army here, and 28 carries, 129 yards at a touchdown, 3 receptions, 50 yards, 180 all-purpose yards on the day. I think out of all the running backs, all the players in college football who've sort of risen from nowhere this year, I mean, people knew of Israel's talent, but he's really, really sort of just exploded onto the scene this year. He's out from the shackles of other offensive players, and his show now, and no one can stop him.
I mean, except the Paul. Like I say, after this year, does he stay at Pitt? Does he decide
he goes
to go
to the draft? I think he goes to the draft. I
don't know how much eligibility he's even got, because like I say, he's kind of a one-season wonder, isn't he?
I think. Well, he got 600 yards, I think it was last year, but he was in rotation. It was three of them had over 500 yards in the running back rotation last year. So doesn't break off the charts really, does it? But I mean,
he'll make an interesting late guy UDFA, I think, for sure.
Oh, I don't know. I think he might get up into day 2 at this rate. Not day 2. I think you might see him late day 2, early day 3 at this rate, because running backs, good ones, not much mileage on the clock, they always peel, but we'll see with him. The Pitt defense still doing well. Savotier Dennis, the lineman, 6 tackles and a sack on the day. He did really well. Shane Simon got a sack as well. AJ Woods got the pick on the day. But that Pitt D-line, there is a lot to like on there this year. I know a lot of guys are high on the other one. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I am a Savotier Dennis man for sure. I'm going to see if he commits to the draft next year, because I would be interested in drafting him. Right, where are we on here? We are... we had the blowout game at the bottom of the FBS, Hawaii at Colorado State. We both picked Colorado State for this one, really because of the home form, but I mean, they made damn hard work of this one. This one finished Hawaii 13, Colorado State 17. Hawaii were 13-3 up at the break, and it took touchdowns in the 3rd and 4th quarter to put them away on here. Avery Morrow, the running back for Colorado State, he had 147 yards and both touchdowns on the day. He went at 5.7 yards per carry, kind of a light amongst not much else happening there. Hawaii, Braden Schrager did what he could, 173 yards, a touchdown and an interception, but these are 2 bad teams, and the home team kind of won by home team advantage margin.
I mean, Hawaii really let it go. Wins for them on the road, like, it costs them a lot of money to travel, a lot of time. They don't do well on the road usually, and shit the bed, really. Like I say, I saw the score at halftime and I thought, oh, I've blown this pick again. I thought they'd have pulled away or seen this victory out, but they really let this one slip, and that one's going to sting. I bet that plane home was really silent. I bet they were pretty let down with themselves, because Colorado State are not a very good team, and Hawaii really let them off the hook. If Hawaii had won that, Jay Norvell would have been under some immense pressure. I feel like if he ain't already, that would have really been one of the potential knives. So I don't know. I feel like I've seen some stuff from Hawaii this year. They've got better.
Yeah.
I think Hawaii are definitely going in the right direction. Like, building the stadium, but on the field, they've managed to do some things, and they've found one or two players. So the season's not a total write-off for them. Like, they're looking towards the future. Colorado State, I don't know. They're still trying to find their identity. They're still trying to gel with these players that have all come in. Like, they've picked up some losses, but these two teams, I think we'll probably have to look maybe 2-3 years down the line to see how really well they've come and how these coaching teams have got them playing, because these, I'd say, are two of the longest term projects probably in the non-group of five. So I feel like, yeah, these two slugfest, but yeah, they I think home advantage eventually got them over the line. Whether they deserved it or not, I don't know.
I don't think Jay Norvell's doing much of a job there this year. I think he's winning in spite of other teams rather than winning games himself. But yeah, these are two long-term rebuilding projects in the Mountain West there. So yeah, gonna have to take some time.
The Mountain West is rough.
Yeah, well, right.
Really
Yeah, quickly, Ash says Israel is a third year. He's a junior, so he can declare this year. I guess he'll take his time to think about it, but if he carries on the way he is, there's no better time than now, because Keaton Slovis won't come back next year, and if he gets stuck behind a Kenny Pickett again, throwing a lot of yardage, it could soon go south for him, so I would still expect him to declare. Right, well, talking about the mess that the Mountain West is in, well, it gets no better at the top here. Boise State at Air Force. Me and you both called this one correctly. We both backed Boise State because we believe that since failure at quarterback left. Hank Backmeyer left. Boise State have looked a completely different proposition, and they did. They won on the road at Air Force 19-14. It is not an easy place to go on the road to a service team, but Boise did all their work in the first half here. All 19 points came in the first half. Air Force only got 7. They got a touchdown in the fourth, but it wasn't enough. They won by 5 points in this one again. This was very, very attritional, as you would expect it to be against the service side. But, I mean, in fairness to Boise, on the road, when it matters, they needed this one to keep the Mountain West title hopes alive. They went and fought hard, because that is what you have to do in the Mountain West, and you have to give them a huge amount of credit for winning this one, because this would have been under the utmost pressure, and they delivered.
Yeah, things have turned a bit of a corner since Hank's gone. They found their run game. George Halami is suddenly getting more of the ball because they've got a quarterback that is not as experienced, so they're relying more on defense and running game. And they met an Air Force team that it's on a skid. I sang the praises for the season, but they are properly throwing this away, aren't they?
Yeah.
I thought they were one of the teams that would make a strong run in the Mountain West Championship. Now, I don't think they're not going to make the title game now. So Hazik Daniels is doing okay, but teams are shutting down the run. Brad Roberts is getting stuffed. For their key rusher, he has been getting shut down, and they don't do well in these low-scoring affairs. So I'd say the Mountain West is wide open. Boise State are kind of just hanging on to their coattails, but they're showing a lot of fight. Like I say, the program had doubts about it. Coaching as well, like I say, they've really fallen from where they were at the start of the 2000s to where they are now.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know where these sides both go now. I feel like they're both probably limp to the end of the year. Promising seasons have now kind of derailed for both of them.
Yeah, I think Air Force are 5-3 on the year. Boise State are 5-2, so they've lifted themselves above Air Force in terms of the pecking order at the moment. I don't know what the in-conference stuff's like, but I know Air Force is not good. So yeah, like I say, they face a struggle to get anything really going this season now. So shame for them, but yeah, Mountain West is wide open. We've got no idea what's going on there. All Big Ten action next. Purdue and Wisconsin. I'm going to stop betting on Purdue because they keep burning me all the time. Wisconsin absolutely thoroughly thrashed them. I know the final score was 35-24 to Wisconsin, but Purdue put up 14 in garbage time in quarter 4. But this game really was over at half time. Wisconsin, they just seemed to get everything going on the day. Even Graham Mertz played well. He threw 203 yards and 2 touchdowns. Braylon Allen, back to the guy we know and love, 7.1 yards a carry, 113 yards and a touchdown. He got a 40-yard reception as well. Defense went to work. John Torchio got 2 picks on the day of Aidan O'Connell. Jordan Turner got a pick as well. They just really went hammer for tongs with him, especially when he was trying to throw at the end, and they just could not get anything going. Aidan O'Connell was 31 of 46, 320 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. It happens as you go. Devin Mockenby had 100 yards on the ground, but only at 4.7 yards per carry. Charlie Jones continues his very impressive season, 10 catches for 105 yards. But yeah, this was not even close, Ryan, which was a shock. I expected Purdue to win this one, but it just shows you what the Big Ten is. You just, outside of Ohio State and Michigan, it's just like flipping a coin this year when it comes to the rest of the team. Oh, and Illinois, I guess.
Yeah, I watched this game actually. It was interesting. Like I said, Aidan O'Connell, he had an absolute stinker. That Wisconsin defense was fantastic. Their backers, they've got a pair of backers, absolute thumpers. They're brutal. Like I say, the safety linebacker that had the 2 picks looks good. A lot of these Wisconsin D are draft eligible, but they don't get a lot of love. Braylon Allen, I was worried because he came out with an arm injury. Like I said, at some point, but just a stinger. But that kid just continues to grind week in, week out and win in spite of everything going on around him. Like I said, Graham Mertz was okay. Like I say, he's had one of his okay weeks. He's very up and down. Wisconsin are really in need to find a proper franchise quarterback because I think they know he's not it, but right now he's the best that's available to them. But yeah, really good win. They look strong, but that West is just, like I say, it's too inconsistent. It's just a mess. Like I said, Braylon Allen, I really don't see him staying at Wisconsin. He is one of the best backs in the nation. Last 2 years, he's one of the best in all of football. And if the kid wants to go win things, he can't do it as a Badger.
You know what?
He's got to go to the SEC, surely.
I was about to say, it would not shock me if Alabama went and got him. They go from Brian Robinson, they pick up Jahmyr Gibbs in the portal, against all luck. He's going to go to the draft and do well this year. Why not go and get Braylon Allen out the portal as well? It'd just be so Bama to do that, wouldn't it? Just get all these top-tier running backs gifted to them in the portal. That just seems like something they would do. So yeah, Wisconsin beat Purdue. Right, I have a bone to pick with you now, and I know you're going to immediately say, well, I told you not to bet on them, but I did. We're talking about Arizona State and Stanford, but I've still got a bone to pick with you, Ryan, because I don't know if you remember early in the season I was talking about post-game win expectancy, the percentage chance a team, based on how it plays, should win a game. Old Dominion beat Virginia Tech with a 1% post-game win expectancy record, so 1 time in 100 basically they'd have beaten them the way they played. Just so happened to be that day. Well, it turns out they're not the only team to win a game this year with a 1% post-game win expectancy rate. Stanford have now joined them. I mean, the Sun Devils were up in this one at half-time. I believe it was 14-6, if I remember rightly, at half-time. And then you did absolutely nothing in the second half. And they scored all field goals. 5 field goals. And they won the game against you. They had pretty much no run game. Tanner McKee, he threw 320 yards, 1 pick. Threw the ball 57 times. They only rushed it about 14, I think, unless they were runs for him. Did very little. Obviously, Xavier Valladay did well for you guys. Elijah Badger had a 120-yard day on just 6 receptions and a touchdown. But, I mean, come on, Ryan. This is a Stanford team that are selling free tickets at the end of the year because they're that bad that no one will go and watch them. And you blow a lead like that against them. This is bad for ASU at the minute.
Oh yeah, it's to be expected. Emory Jones comes back after injury. They probably should have played Trent and Borke. Probably would have won. But both defences were fantastic. Like I said, we gave up 300 passing yards, but nearly all field goals won the game. Our defence was absolutely fantastic. It kept getting the ball. Both punters were very, very busy. But offence in that second half stunk. And in that fourth quarter, we got the ball so many times back. Only 4 points down. Just couldn't do anything. That last drive took forever. And it ended up just falling to nothing, falling short. But yeah, I think this was a bad game. I don't think Emory Jones should have played.
No.
I don't know. There's definitely a quarterback battle on their hands now going forward, because it was really disappointing. To upset Washington State, drop 45 on them, but then play such a lackluster Stanford and just do nothing in the second half, just shows you about the team is in such a bad place right now. But they've come out and defended the athletic director, who everyone wants gone. But instead, they're going to stick by him. It's no their head coach search, because I think Sean Aguirre maybe has a chance to keep it, but they're not looking right now. They're just trying to get to the end of the year. Even Xavier Valade, I watched most of the game, was bottled up. There was not much of a run game either between him and Atta, which is not that much offense going on in general. So yeah, one of those games where the defense just did everything it could, kept the ball back, forcing stops, holding them to field goals despite lots of penalties, or penalties killed us as well. That was another stinker. But yeah, I expected it. That's why I backed Stanford. Like I said, I knew this would be one of those games that we make a proper hash of, and now both teams just fizzle out end of year. Both teams aren't going nowhere. Both teams are probably not even making. I don't think they're going to make a bowl game either.
No.
But no, yeah. But both teams are really bad.
Yeah, they are, and they're not going back in the pick watch again this year. So yeah, I got burned by that. So that was a shocker. And another team I got burned by, and another team I'm going to fall out with. I made it a special thing last week that we gave some love to Ole Miss, because they were the one undefeated team this season who nobody was talking about. And I went out my way to say, you know what? You're a good team, actually. You know, I'm going to back you this weekend against LSU, of all teams. You're going to go and win this one. And what do? They drop a big, stinking pile of on my desk, don't they? LSU murdered them. It was 45-20. It was in the Bayou, but I still expect Ole Miss to be better than that. I mean, Jaden Daniels had a day. 248 yards, 2 touchdowns in the air, 121 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. Keishon Butte still struggling, only 43 passing yards when they dropped 45 points. No more touchdowns, but your Jackson Dart fraud expose seems to have worked. He had 284 yards and a pick through 19 of 34. Quinshon Judkins on the ground got 2 touchdowns, but he was only going at 4.4 yards per carry. They kept him in check, really. Malik Heath got 145 yards in the air, but defensively, they got a few sacks. Cedric Johnson got 2, but outside of that, very little there. The LSU defense, that did come to play. Mekhi Wingo got 1.5 sacks, Harold Perkins got 1, Joey Foucher got a pick. I mean, this was just men against boys, and I feel really bad back in Ole Miss last week. Now, I tried to be nice to them, and that's how they repaid me.
I think this LSU team is really underrated. Even though they've not got they're not loaded up with talent. There's not loads of players. Keishon Butte might as well not be there. I don't think his long-term future's there either, but they're properly digging in and playing for one another, and they're playing for their head coach, and he looked fairly well coached as well this year. Jane Daniels definitely had his best game as a Tiger. He was great in both assets, and Ole Miss just looked all lost at sea. Like I say, that defense of LSU just properly clamped them and shut them down. Even, like I say, Evans and Judkins were, let's say, only going at a few yards a clip, and their bread and butter is their run game and their defense. And it's a blip, but I feel like this could be a big catapult for LSU. I feel like they could finish their season really strong now. taking a big scalp like that. So yeah, there's a lot of young talent on that LSU team. Like I said, definitely like say Harold. So yeah, I think the future is bright. LSU probably close the season out well. It's a big dent in Ole Miss's SEC title hopes. That was a clanger to drop at a bad time. So Lane Kiffin has got to shake that off quickly. They've got to bounce back very quickly.
Yeah, agreed. Not a great result for them. Right, those are all the Pig Watch fixtures. Let's just go a few of the other games. It's nowhere near as extensive as last week because the results really weren't on par. A lot of favourites winning this week, but there's a few I want to mention. Syracuse 21, Clemson 27. Now, the biggest team I have a bone to pick this week with is Syracuse. I mean, Clemson did everything they could to throw this game away. DJU turned into last year's DJU. He was throwing picks, he fumbled the ball, I think it was the 5-yard line, it got returned the entire length of the field for a score by Syracuse, and they still could not win this game. Clemson put up 17 points in the final quarter. Syracuse did not score a single point after half-time. They're 21-10 up at the break, they're looking really good, they've got Clemson on the ropes at their own ground. DJU throws 2 picks. Cade Klubnik comes in, but Will Shipley he has a really big game for them when he needed them when they needed him the most. 27 carries, 172 yards, 6.5 yards per carry. He has 2 touchdowns on the day. He's got 3 receptions on there as well. The defense comes up big. Tyler Davis gets a couple of sacks. Brian Breesy gets a sack. KJ Henry gets a sack. RJ Mickens gets a interception on Syracuse's side. Now, this is the big mystery of the time and the reason I'm so annoyed with them, right? In Sean Tucker, you have one of the best running backs in the entire country, period. He gets 5 carries on the day, which he takes for 54 yards. So he's averaging 10 yards per carry, and you've got one of the best running backs in the nation. Garrett Schrader, the quarterback, gets 21 carries, and he's carrying at 3 yards per carry. You are a ridiculous number of points. You are 11 points up on the road against Clemson at half-time, and you give the ball to your quarterback, not your damn well running back. I mean, Syracuse deserved this. They deserve to lose this, despite the fact that Clemson did everything they could to let them win.
Yeah, everything. The stars aligned for Syracuse, but they had one job in the second half, and that was to chew clock, and they didn't do it because they didn't run the ball efficiently. If they put in Syracuse, if they give like Sean Tucker like 10 more carries, they might win that game. That might chew up 5 minutes of clock, 6 minutes of clock, which Clemson would have needed. And yeah, but this was the defense. This was the Will Shipley show. He's finally had his homecoming. He's finally had his big come out game. DJU can't be trusted. Cade Klubnik, who everyone thinks really highly of, this 5-star phenom, was okay in relief. I'm not sure about him. He's got a lot of progression to do, but yeah, Clemson DJU has proven that Clemson cannot rely on him when needs be, and he needs help to get through games. But Syracuse dropped a clanger. Clemson survive, like I say, and there's a few dodgy calls as well. I think the officials in this game apparently were really poor.
Yeah,
there was a few flags that upset a lot of Syracuse fans. But yeah, Clemson live to fight another day. Syracuse will be pissed about that one.
Yeah, and they've only themselves to blame. Don't give your quarterback 21 carries and your star running back 5 when you're defending an 11-point lead away from home. That is all. You're defending an 11-point lead with a quarter to go. It was 0-0 in the third, so you got 15 minutes to defend an 11-point lead, and you don't give your lead running back some carries. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Chrome and C Ball are in the building. What up to you both? Thank you for joining us this evening. Right, a few more games I want to mention because we've got to get into our half-season mock drafts. Tulane, mentioned them last week. First time in the AP Top 25 in 24 years. Could they hold on to that? They could. At home, they beat Memphis 38-26, but this got a bit icky. They were 35-0 up at half time. But they ended up only winning by 12. I mean, obviously Memphis, garbage time points, etc. But be careful, Tulane. If that happens to you against a better team, you're not going to get relief like that. So, well done to them. I believe they've jumped 2 positions. They are now 23rd. So, well done to them. Whoo, boy. The Miami Hurricanes are really bad this year, Ryan. Trounced by the Duke Blue Devils, 45-21, and Tyler Van Dyke needs another year in college football because he ain't it this year for them. I don't know how, but they kind of look even worse than last year.
I think Mario Cristobal is on a very, 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 very hot seat.
Yeah.
He hasn't been there long, and they look really bad. I think he's definitely in danger. Miami don't hesitate to pull the trigger on a head coach, do they?
Yeah.
And things have not gone well currently, so yeah. And Van Dijk, just isn't ready. I don't know if he will be ready. I feel like people are just keep focusing on those first few games he had last season where he came in and he just looked like a star. But over the larger sample size, he just looked worse. Maybe it's the Hurricanes holding him back. Maybe he needs to leave. Maybe he'll enter the transfer portal. If he goes to new pastures, maybe it'll all click for him. But I would not enter the draft. I just don't think he's got enough good tape, and I feel like he'll suffer for it.
Yeah, him and Richardson both going to struggle this year. So yeah, don't declare either of you guys. It ain't going to work for you. James Madison's honeymoon is well and truly over. Second defeat on the bounce. They lost 26-12 to Marshall, who are just really hit and miss this year. Marshall are, but they were really good in this one. South Carolina narrowly beat Texas A&M 30-24, but Spencer Rattler still doesn't look good. The last we're talking about quarterbacks in this year's draft who need not go, but I don't know if he's got any eligibility left. Liberty smoked BYU 41-14. This was a Liberty team who have lost some really bad games this season, and Jaron Hall and BYU absolutely smoked. And his draft stock, his credibility is just going through the floor right now.
Yeah, this has been coming, like I say, because BYU, not enough playmakers recruited in offense, no run game, very patchy defense. Like I say, Liberty, record shows they're a good side, but I don't think they're a good side. I don't think you should be getting blown out by Liberty, especially when they're down to their base at their backup quarterback all year. Like I say, it wasn't the quarterback that was first on the depth chart. And yeah, the Cougs, I just worry for them. Like I say, I just think, like I say, after Zach Wilson left, the ship really set sail with them. Jaron Hall, I won't be touching him with a barge pole. If he declares for the draft, I just won't touch him at all whatsoever.
No.
And I feel like this team is a long way from getting back to those 9-10 win seasons. They need to do some serious recruitment.
I mean, it's the run game. I mean, they had no one rush for over 26 yards. Jaron Hall, I mean, he's 16 of 34, 187 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, it's okay. It's not great, but when you've got no run game to support you, it's like kind of, what's the point? You know, they've just not replaced Eligier. He's probably one of the biggest losses for any college football team from last year. No one is missing one single player more than what BYU were missing Eligier. They just can't run the ball, and the offense has gone to bits. Right, that is everything in terms of week 8. We will do a rundown of the conferences next week. We'll let you know the standings, who's in contention for bowl games, championship games, etc. But we are on a clock today, so we are going to make our way swiftly into the mock draft portion of the show. So, if you were with the College Football Podcast last year in its very early days, you will know that we do a mock draft halfway through the college football season. It is a little late this year, given how much we've had on, and we're trying to fit it into shows. And then we do one again at the end of the year, and we compare with our first ones to see how much our views and opinions have changed. It's not just because like the Lions season is over. No, we're doing this for the College Football Cast completely separately. This isn't us giving up on the Lions season, whatever, yada yada yada. This is just us, all the college football we've seen, who will we draft at this point. So I'm just going to quickly confirm with you, Ryan. So we have this year 2 first-round picks, a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth, and 2 sixths. No 7th-round pick this year. You've got that many, yeah?
I thought we had a 7th, but I've got enough players. Yeah, I'll just move my to the second sixth round pick.
The seventh went to Trinity Benson. The sixth comes from Trinity Benson. It's the Trinity Benson trade. We kept the fifth, I think. We kept the fifth. We didn't end up activating it. So it's basically a swap, a sixth for a seventh. So we kind of got the better of that deal, really, I guess, at the end of the day. So yeah, we are going to start off. So I mean, I kind of done positions where we're at the minute, so obviously that might switch as the year goes on, but currently the Detroit Lions are picking at number 1, so I'll start with you. Without further ado, who is your first overall pick in the draft for the Detroit Lions next year? Ryan McCluskey, and why?
My first overall pick in the draft next year is CJ Stroud. I believe that the buck stops the trend that OSU quarterbacks are no good in the NFL. I think it ends with him. 6'3", about 214 pounds. He's got a bigger body. I think he's got a stronger frame than Bryce Young. And right now, Jackson Smith and Jigba has been nowhere to be seen. He lost Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave last year. He's still tearing it up for number 1 in the nation with 2 talented but inexperienced sophomore receivers, and he looks like he can make basically every throw in the book. Even with a complimentary run game, I feel like he's still got all the tools to succeed, but I feel like he is more durable potentially at the next level. May not have the arm power of Bryce Young, but I feel like his frame will help him. He's got a bit more size, a bit more to him. Even if he's not explosive in the run game, I feel like his pocket presence gives him the capability to be a first overall pick. And I feel like he's just... Everyone's talking about Fields like could be the guy that is the one that means OSU QBs aren't bad in the NFL anymore, but I'm not sure yet. But I don't see Stroud failing. I feel like he lives up to the hype. I feel like he's been in a very pro-style offense. He's worked with some fantastic players. And as good as they've been, he's still made them look good. Last year, still 44 touchdowns. This year he's already on like 5 interceptions, but still another 24 touchdowns. And he just does not seem to be slowing down, even though he basically lost his whole receiver core and his tight end in Ruckert. They just reloaded, but the production has not stopped so far.
No, I can understand 100% why. So Ryan goes with CJ Stroud.
I know a lot of people don't like that.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Anyone on Twitch, on YouTube, if you agree or disagree with these picks. So Ryan, first overall, goes with CJ Stroud. Me, first overall, Detroit Lions pick next draft. Will Anderson Jr., the edge from Alabama. Yes, I am going that way. 6'4", 243 pounds, 36 games in college, 189 total tackles, 53.5 tackles for loss, 30.5 sacks, just 1 interception. It was a pick 6, 3 passes defended, and 1 forced fumble. This is the best defensive line prospect to come out of college since Myles Garrett, in my humble opinion, and it is not even close. He is uber aggressive, doesn't wait to see what look a blocker will give him. He just goes straight for them, overwhelms them with sheer power. The forte, the real, genius in his game, it's twisting, it's stunting. He puts himself in positions where linemen simply can't block him unless they want to draw a holding call. Otherwise, they've got to let him go and destroy their quarterback. It's truly wonderful what he does in terms of that. The only room for improvement, he does need to learn to win around the actual edge a bit more, as the vast majority of the production comes from ducking inside, but he is still as elite a pass rushing prospect as you could find. And if you pair him in Detroit with Aiden Hutchinson, you are going to have quite simply the best young pass rushing duo in the league on your team for the next half decade. You can only double team one of them. Who are you going to pick? Are you going to let Will Anderson run at you, or are you going to let Hutch run at you? Hutch is coming to life now, so you're going to leave him one-on-one? You're going to trust him there? You're going to let Will Anderson ruin your other edge? You've got guys coming through the middle, you've got Pascal in there. The possibilities will be endless, and our defensive line needs that. So I have gone edge Will Anderson Jr. with the Lions' first overall pick. Now I'll snake it, so I'll go on to the second round pick. Now currently that pick is positioned at about number 20. So we're picking roughly at 20 at this moment in time. And my second pick in the first round of the 2023 draft for the Detroit Lions, this may come as a surprise. I am taking wide receiver Quentin Johnston from TCU. 6'4", 212 pounds. I am not happy with the Detroit Lions receiving core outside of Jameson and Amon-Ra. I think this year has shown me that, the rest of the guys really aren't it. We need to continue investing at the position, and Quentin Johnston gives us something that the others don't. So he's played 23 games, 93 receptions, 1,695 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns. He averages 18.2 yards per catch. He also got a couple of rushing touchdowns. He's coming off a first team All Big 12 selection last season, and he is a key cog in the undefeated TCU machine this year. So Johnston, he is a true X-receiver. Something the Lions need going forward, even with Jameson Williams on the team. So the X-receiver is your true wide receiver one, the guy who lines up outside, the physical. You've got to be big, physical, tall, have aggressive traits in there to really dominate on the outside. Jameson Williams does it with his speed. This guy does it with his strength, and he is the definition of an X-receiver. So he's got surprising burst and speed. For a guy his size, it makes him dangerous, not just downfield, but on short to intermediate routes as well. Downfield, his burst, his elongated stride, it eats up cushion that defensive backs give him. So obviously DBs sit back and give a receiver cushion to be able to have time to prepare for them, the route they're running. He eats that gap up to the point where they don't really have any time to prepare whatsoever. He catches them off guard, breaks off big passes downfield. That just gives him such good separation from guys there. On the short to intermediate routes, he's got surprising short speed burst, so he can get into the middle of the field. He's got a few yards spare. Max Duggan's used him plenty of times over the middle of the field to be able to just give his quarterback an easy out on passes. So he will hit you at all three levels. Now, don't let the average receiving numbers scare you off. They're not like mind-blowing. He's less than 2,000 receiving yards in college, but TCU specifically use him in a way where he draws the attention of opposition defenses and opens things up for his teammates. So it's very selfless the way he plays a lot of the time. That attitude's going to endear him to NFL teams. He's a one, but he doesn't moan if he doesn't get one level production on paper. He knows what part he plays in an offense there. He needs to get better at the line of scrimmage. That is the one knock on him. Obviously, bigger body allows more attack area for a defensive back to keep him, on the line of scrimmage and stop him getting away from there. But outside of that, there's not really a lot to dislike about this guy. Could do with a few more routes, but what he's got now will be fine at the next level. And if you're going to pair him with Amon-Ra in the slot and Jameson as your true downfield threat you've got, this is kind of like the DJ. He'll be the DJ Chark really this year, except he's just coming out of college and he's damn good. You've got Amon-Ra, you've got Jameson, you've got Quentin Johnston on your wide receiving core next year. You've got one of the best young units in the entire NFL, period. So I'm fixing receiver problem with our second first round pick. Ryan, where are you going?
20th overall. I am going to Notre Dame. I'm taking the defensive end lineman Isaiah Foskey. Oh, did you panic there?
I thought you were about to say tight end.
No, that comes later. No, yeah, Isaiah Foskey. Right, say 6'5". Plays the 4-3 defensive end from the 2-point stance and can play outside linebacker in a 3-4. Sounds very similar to someone we've just taken. I think he is very much in the Aiden Hutchinson mould. Broke out last year with 11 sacks and a plethora of tackles for loss on a Fighting Irish defence that didn't have too much in the way of helping him pass rush. This year, maybe a down year, but it's still at 6 sacks this year. So he's still nearing that 20 sacks in 2 years mark. On a team that is really struggling this year, he is the focal point of a defence. Often gets double teamed, but the frame, you just have to look at him. Like I say, he looks lean, but he's just pure muscle. Like I say, he's got super long arms, a long stride. He is a man mountain coming off the edge. Has power. He's able to play the run just as well because, like I say, he's able to go inside, kick in, and be able to support in the run game. But bread and butter is passing the rusher off the edge. I'd say he does that with speed, a relentless motor. He can play all the downs, doesn't have to take any plays off the field. Good hands, strength, shed blocks. All the place he needs to work on his hips, like his flexibility, getting that bend around the edge. He's not always able to arc all the way around, but can fight back on the inside. A good Arsenal pass rush moves, and I feel like we need someone that can match his work rate and take some pressure off him. And this is the guy. He could slip into the second if he took curtains off towards the end of the year, but there's potential for him to be a top 15 pick if he does finish the year with a bit of a flourish. I think he's maybe the best second defensive lineman in the class as a pass rusher. And yeah, he's broke onto the scene really big, and he's going to be a menace potentially at the next level.
I like how we've both gone for an edge player in the first round. A lot of people probably wouldn't agree with that this season, but I like how we're thinking along the same lines. Yeah, we do.
Charles Harris might not be here.
Yeah.
Aquara, Bryant won't be here.
So that's the first round done. Ryan's gone CJ Stroud and Foskey from Notre Dame. I've gone Will Anderson and Quentin Johnston from TCU. I've gone wide receiver. Big Aries is on Twitch. He goes, I think the second round is a spot for a DB. Well, it's a good look for you because my second round pick happens to be a DB. So Big Aries thinking along our lines. So our next pick 32 in the second round. Now, if you're confused as to why pick 32 is in the second round this year, Miami got stripped of their first round pick next year for all that tapping up Sean Payton, was it? Was it Sean Payton they tried to tackle? They tried to tap somebody up for their head coach role. But yeah, they've lost their first round pick this year. So pick 32 is in the second round. So we're snaking it. I'll go straight back to you, Ryan. Who are you taking with your second round pick for the Lions at 32?
I am taking a defensive back. Now this guy could be a first rounder, but I'm not quite sure yet. I've gone for Joey Porter Jr. He's very much on that cusp of late round, early second. Now, he's an absolute stud. He has really stepped up this year for Penn State. He's 6'2", he's 210, he's super aggressive and physical. He plays primarily man. Like say, he plays a press man corner, so he uses his strength and size and length at the line of scrimmage, very much like a Cuda. I look at him and I see a bit of a Cuda. I think he could be the perfect complementary piece to let Armani walk in free agency. He comes downhill hard, he's aggressive, but he's got better ball skills than Jeff. He will play the ball and not just think about taking out the man. So he's got fluid hips, he's got a nice back pedal, changes direction well. He lacks top end speed like Jeff. So if people are beating him, you don't want him in a foot race, but he doesn't often get people behind him too quickly, and he high points really well. He's up there, he doesn't give away too many 50-50s, he can get the ball, but he will stop the player there and then. Guy's a thumper, and for a team that plays nearly like 55%, 60-man coverage in the NFL, one of the team's best, I feel like he's one of the best man corners in the draft. What happens between now and the end of the season will determine if he goes in the end of the first or the start of the second. I feel like he probably won't be there, but if he is, I'll get him, because I feel like he's a proper fit for such an aggressive team that wants to play real tough football line of scrimmage. Head screwed on, and he is big, strong, and plays angry.
So me and Ryan have completely not done these together. We do these without consulting one another, etc. I find it really interesting. We've both taken an edge first, which a lot wouldn't do. We've both taken a man corner with our 32 pick. Before I reveal mine, Grandizer goes, yes, the Finns lost their first round pick, but they have the 49ers first round pick by the trade to move up to get Trey Lance. Oh, so Miami still does have a first round pick, but they have one less than they should have. That's why there's only 31 picks in the first round this year. It was Sean Payton and Tom Brady, he says. Ryan has gone Joey Porter Jr. for his DB. Now, I've kind of reached for my guy a little bit because he's not at this stage yet on the draft board, but he's getting there. I've gone to the Big Ten, I've gone to Illinois, and I've gone for the cornerback Devon Witherspoon. Now, he is a guy who is ascending draft boards everywhere, so he is 6 foot, 170 pounds. His 2022 season, 7 games, 21 tackles, 1 interception, 11 passes defended. Now, if you're looking for defensive prospects this year, you've got to make a stop in Illinois. So their defense this year, they lead the nation in least touchdowns given up. They've given up just 5 touchdowns in 7 games. That is tied with Georgia. There is no other team in the FBS who is given up less than double-digit touchdowns this year. I think Michigan's next with 10. Witherspoon is a big part of this defense. He is making a very strong case for being the best man coverage cornerback in this upcoming draft. And that's saying something, because there are some good ones. But like I say, a great man coverage cornerback is something the Detroit Lions are in desperate need of. And even, Ryan's just said exactly the same thing. And this is a guy who's not had it easy. Started playing football very late in high school. I think it was, only a year before he came up to college. He's had to work his way into this Illinois side through special teams. He excelled there. He plays kick coverage, punt return, punt coverage, field goal block units. He has been in them all. He's one of the 12 semi-finalists for the Jim Thorpe Award. That's given to the best DB in the nation. He is ranked number 1 in the nation by PFF in terms of cornerback grades. He's second in the nation in passes defended per game. It's 1.7 per game. So he ranks first in coverage grade, 91. He is first in forced incompletions at 13. He is 6th amongst all FBS cornerbacks in quarterback rating allowed. It's just 31 is a quarterback rating he gives up. He's given up 13 catches for 131 yards on 237 coverage snaps. But these accolades, they don't really matter, nor does his short frame. People think 6 foot is kind of small for a corner. Don't be worried about it. So he plays outside. He's played over 1,750 snaps there. But you can put him in the slot to match up when you've got the trickier, speedier guys in there. This guy sticks like glue to receivers. He's got a high IQ perception of the game. It allows him to work out play designs and routes, which means he can put himself in the best possible position to cover his man. I mean, honestly, just go and watch some tape on him. He really does stick to his receivers like glue. He is aggressive for a guy his size. I think it was the second week of this season, he landed a hit on, I think it was was it a Nebraska running back? He sent him into space. He was a lot bigger than him, but this guy plays aggressive. He's really great in coverage, and he is ascending draft boards quick. Now, the aggression needs tampering just a little bit. There's been a few penalty issues. I think he had 5 penalties last year, but overall, it's not a problem. There's a few technical issues to work out for him on curl and comeback routes, but overall, like I say, he is an ever-improving player. He's fought against the odds to get to where he has. Like I say, he started football late. He's had to work his way up through special teams, had nothing given to him. It's the right mindset to succeed in a Detroit team who is doing the same. Now, there are some bigger and more flashier names in this draft at cornerback, but I believe this hidden gem in Champaign is the guy for the Lions. So my pick there, round 2, is Devon Witherspoon, the Illinois cornerback. Really do keep an eye out for him. Brent DeWitt's in the chat. He said, I'd like to see Brad Holmes grab a DB in the second round. Hey, we're all on the same page here. And work his magic, find a gem in the later rounds, specifically a QB with escapability. Well, it just so happens I have one of those later on as well, and probably everyone knows who it is already. Right, I'm going to go back to myself. So next we're picking, it would be 64 if we carried on in this route. So I've gone edge, wide receiver, corner so far. Now I maybe plump a little higher again and I go and get my quarterback of the future. You all know who he is. I've mentioned him a billion times before, but KJ Jefferson, the quarterback from Arkansas, 6'3", 245 pounds. He is a 2-year, he's starting his second year as a starter in Arkansas. He's played 19 games, 4,139 passing yards, 67% completion, 35 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. So he has a 7-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio in the SEC. He's got over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns on the ground as well. And I thoroughly believe in my heart of heart, this is the most disrespected man in the entirety of college football. Arkansas football, with him under center, has made some big strides these last 2 years. They consistently have one of the toughest strength of schedules in the nation, with them being part of the SEC. I think they had the toughest in the entire FBS last season. It's not much better this season. On the road, he's thrown 1 interception on the road in his career. He's played against Ole Miss on the road, where he got 6 touchdowns altogether. He's played against Alabama on the road, got 3 touchdowns on the day. Missouri on the road. Now, I know you say Miz ain't good, but that Miz defense is usually pretty decent. Played against BYU on the road a few weeks ago, 5 touchdowns on the day, no picks. He steps up for his team as a leader in the most hostile of environments in the SEC. He is a true dual threat quarterback. You see 1,000 yards in just over a season and a bit. His build is his first asset. He is tremendously difficult to bring down in the pocket. He can shed tackles from smaller D linemen. He feels pressure really well. When he's running, he can absorb tackles and carry on for good yards after catch. But he's not just a running quarterback who runs all the time. He will always make his reads before going out the pocket if it is a busted play. As a passer, like I say, unfazed by contact and pressure, because he knows with his frame he can shake it off. His arm is big, he can deliver fast, precise strikes downfield, and he's a nightmare to scheme for. When you have the ability to run the ball the way he does it in zone read, option, play action, QB power, quarterback draw, extended plays, unscripted plays. The entire playbook comes to your availability when you can run the ball like that in play action. You don't know, the opposition don't know whether to send the house and risk being burnt by his arm or drop back and risk getting burnt by his legs. But he does have his issues, which is why he's going in round 3 here. The accuracy was a concern coming into this season, but like I say, it's over 67% this year, which is really good. The accuracy is a lot better. Only just over 1 year as a starter, so the game experience is still light compared to a lot of the other QBs primed for this draft cycle. So there's a lot of the small technical and mental issues that you get in a guy's game until he has more playing time, but it will come as the season goes on. The more complicated, quicker multi-read passes are still something he needs to work on. A lot of his success comes when he knows he's throwing to his first read or on dropbacks when he's got a bit more time to scan the field and find his pass. He needs a little bit more finesse on his mid-range passing, both in keeping the ball steady in the air. They can be wobbly at times, and putting it right into his receiver's path. You know, sometimes they are having to adjust to his throws a little bit, but these are issues that will start to iron out the more he plays. Overall, he's got tremendous upside. The frame, the arm, the running ability, it makes it hard for opposition to scheme against him. The Lions want that kind of guy, and I believe they can find it later in the draft whilst putting their major picks into other areas to sort those. I'm doing tape review on him. I will put my tape up on KJ Jefferson's thing there, but I will die by this guy. I reckon he's going to be great at the next level. So I go quarterback at 64 this year. KJ Jefferson, honestly, a name to watch out for. Now I will snake it back to you, Ryan. Who are you going with in round 3?
Round 3, this draft is littered with running backs, and I'm going fairly high. I'm going to get the successor to DeAndre Swift. I'm going to get a guy that Brad Holmes has been to see in person this year already. That's a Bruin by the name of Mr. Zach Charbonnet. The 6'1", 215, 220 running back has really burst onto the nation last few years. He came off for about 1,100 yards yesterday. Really dynamic running back. Like I say, he's got size, he's got strength, he's got power, but he's also got that balance. Like I say, especially when he's teaming down the sideline to keep his feet in bounds. He's that kind of guy you look for. Takes one cut, sees the hole, hits it, goes. Like I say, he has got the vision. Like I say, he's able to bounce outside. He can see if holes are getting blocked to bail on a play. He has got that IQ where he can make a play happen, even if it doesn't go to plan or it's not blocked well enough. He, for me, has been this UCLA offense for the last 2 years. With no disrespect to DTR, he needs a run game, and Charbonnet has offered that. I think he is what the Lions need. Like I say, the one thing he doesn't do, for me, he's just not a receiving back. Like I say, he just doesn't want to be taking the ball out of the backfield, little dump offs, but that's fine. We've tried to make a receiving back into an every down back, and it's just not worked. So I'm going to go old school. I'm going to get a bruiser. I feel like he's built, he's rugged, he can probably take the NFL workload, and he's not got too many miles on his clock. He's not picked up too many injuries in these times, despite taking a lot of snaps. When I was actually doing this mock, he was going about 6.7 yards a carry this year. He's dominating on the ground. Like I say, those big 150 yards in vain against Oregon, a lot of them were just big explosive plays. He's able to break through tackles. If you throw an arm at him, he'll just swat it away. You've got to wrap him up. You've got to finish, because he is hard to bring down. He's got a good, strong frame, and I think he is someone that could go anywhere. I don't really know where to put him, despite being such a strong running back class. he could be one of the first off the board there. But for me, I want a strong every down back for the Lions. I feel like Charbonnet fits that mould, and he's coming off a good 18-month span. Can finish the season well, whether UCLA do or not, that'll be fine. But yeah, he's someone that I trust to carry the rock at the next level.
All right, so I go quarterback. Ryan goes running back in round 3. Jamie Clark goes, if you take KJ Jefferson in round 3, do you cut Goff? Grandizer kind of answers my question there. No, you keep him one more year. Ideally, you want to let KJ take over halfway into next year. Just give him time, because he's not much time as a starter at Arkansas, but that is what I do. I keep Goff one more year, train KJ, and when he's ready, I'd throw him in there. You could even use him Trey Lance-esque and bring him in for packages to start off with, because those legs are really damn good. Start with some packages, gain his experience, and then slowly make that transition over. That is what I do. Brent DeWitt goes, Arkansas QB, I'll have to watch a little more closely if they're playing this weekend. Thanks for the info, that's why I love your show. Really appreciate it. Arkansas play Mizzou this weekend. They're playing Missouri, and he really struggled against that Missouri defense last year. So I'm going to be watching it very closely to see if he's learned his lessons. So I would watch that one if you get the chance. Brent DeWitt goes, totally agree with the Zach pick, so he's on board there with you, Ryan. Right, I'm going to snake it round, and we are into round 4. It says number 96 here, but the comp picks and that aren't in yet, but we're just doing them really by round rather than by number. So you've just gone running back round 3. Where are we going round 4?
I'm going to go with a position I think is weak. I've gone with inside linebacker. I've gone with Diane Henley from Washington State. Now, he is really coming to his own as a coverage backer. 6'1", 200 pounds. In the last 2 years, he's got 5 interceptions, and he's got at least 1 touchdown. He is really elusive. He's kind of built in that Devin Lloyd mould for the Cougars. Like I say, he can play that middle linebacker. He can show rush, or like he's going to blitz, and then drops into coverage. He's a hybrid safety, I'd say, at the next level, but he's strong to play and run support. He's got a good frame. He's a good tackler when he comes up into the box and has to help, but give him a tight end all day long. Give him a running back out the backfield. Let him show that he's going to come up and cause pressure, and then backpedal very quickly. He has got a really good knack for getting in the QB's line of sight, putting him off, getting into the line of scrimmage if he wants to bat a ball. He's got bouncy athleticism. He's got spring. I'd say he's really good at diagnosing players across the middle. If you want to throw the ball out and let him try across the middle, he'll make you pay for it. He's not the biggest, but he will make you pay for catching the ball, coming into his zone, and that's if he can get it first. He has got really good hand-eye coordination. He's a bit of a ball hawk. He can play all around and move him about, and he just lives and breathes football. Like I say, Washington State defense that has played really well in the last 2 years. Like I say, the team has had faring fortunes under new leadership, but he's a leader. He's well trusted. He's got 3 years of experience now. He'll get you 50, 60 tackles a year, but what he does in the coverage game, like I say, where we struggle against tight ends and big bodies coming out of the slots, backfield, runners, the backs where they spill out and then they sit and find a small hole. He's a missile that I can hopefully think they'll take that away. And he makes turnovers, gets plays. Like I say, he'll go in, force a fumble, recover a fumble. He's someone that'll start on special teams. I think he's got the capability to do that, but he can work his way into a package or as a potential rotational backer. And I think with a lot of more experience, he could grow at the next level. But he's got those natural, flashy, fluid hips that you look for. Like saying someone that can pick off the ball and create a potentially game-changing turnover the other way. And that's something we lack right now. We just lack turners on defense, and he brings that to the next level.
You know, again, we've not done these in sync, but I've actually gone inside linebacker on 4th as well. I think we're thinking along the same lines here. Quickly, Jamie goes, not sure about that strategy. 20 million cap hit to keep Goff for another year. That's a lot for a guy who isn't the guy. His guaranteed money runs out next year, so I'd redo his deal for another year. That's how I'd do it. I mean, if I have to put KJ in straight away, then I will, but I would like to try and at least redo his deal, because his guaranteed money's up. We do take some dead cap, but I think we can bring that cap hit down by a lot and give Goff potentially one last shot to get himself there. Yeah, Grandad's agrees. No, I would redo his deal. I think there's a point to redo his deal. But if I have to get rid, then I'll get rid. The lesser of two evils. Anyhow, the inside linebacker I've gone round 4, Ventrell Miller from Florida. 6'1", 226 pounds. His 2022 season, 6 games, 50 total tackles, 4.5 for a loss, 1 pass defended, 1 forced fumble and recovery. This is the unquestioned leader of this Florida defense. He will bring those leadership qualities to a Lions defense, which is sorely lacking in them, quite frankly, and this is what really stands out to me about him. So he has elite lateral movement ability, so that enables him to shut down gaps, prevent big yardage plays. If a hole appears on the line anywhere, he has that sort of, like I say, the elite lateral movement to be able to go and get it covered. As coverage linebackers go, he is one of the better candidates in this draft. Even if it's not him making the plays, he shuts down his receivers that he's guarding, means the quarterback has to go to his tougher throws, brings in opportunities for his teammates as well. Like, I kind of like the match with Malcolm Rodriguez here. So Malcolm Rodriguez, that sort of north-south dominance he has coming downhill, making big plays, making big tackles. Put Ventrell Miller in here with him to do the lateral work. You've got a pair of very young, dynamic playmakers in the heart of your defense to build around going forward. Now, is he going to be a hit right away? No, of course he's not. It's going to take his time to go in there, but we're building this team young, we're building it for the future. Got 2 good guys in there. Like I say, that leadership should come through, and it will replace in the long term AA, who we don't really want to be here much longer. And yes, I'm sorry Ash is from Florida, but he's damn good, and he's another one who's coming up draft boards, even though Florida are having a rough year. So I've gone Ventrell Miller for him. Right, let's move it on to round 5. I've gone running back here. I mentioned him earlier. I think we do need another running back this upcoming year. I'm going to ride the hot hand in terms of the guy who's doing well, and I'm picking Israel Abanikanda from Pittsburgh. He is 5'11", 215 pounds. Had a good year last year, 600 yards on the season, but he was in a 3-way rotation, and they had Kenny Pickett, who was throwing forever and a day. This season, 157 carries, 959 yards at 6.1 yards per carry, 13 touchdowns. He's got 7 receptions for 109 yards in the air. Got a touchdown as well. He does kick return duty. 12 so far this year. He averages 19 yards per return, so you get yourself a return threat with him as well. DeAndre is coming up to his last year. I'm going to take a guy who can run the rock, let DeAndre do a little bit more of his receiving work in there instead. But between the tackles, he is such a great runner. Just go and watch this Pitt team this year. I know Keaton Slovis stinks, but this guy is keeping that offense alive. Running between the tackles, he just has this innate ability to find the gaps, hit the gaps, expose them, make big chunk plays going forward. And he's a guy who is, like I say, he's been hidden away because of the depth chart there at Pittsburgh, but he's really shone through this year. I know PFN Ollie over here, he's a big fan of him as well, but I like the skill set he brings, the special teams ability there, the return ability, his durability. He's taken some big hits this season. He's just carried on going. The guy is a tank, even though, a bit smaller at 5'11", but he's got the frame. I'm adding to my running back room, and it is Israel Abanikanda. I love this guy, and I'm going to watch more tape on him going forward, but he might not very well be available at this point in round 5 by the end of the season if he carries on the way he is. But for now, you can snag him there. So that's me. Round 5, Ryan, where we're going?
Round 5, I'm going tight end. Like say, this guy, Blake Whiteheart, tight end at Wake Forest, real unsung hero in what their offense likes to do. Like I said, primarily he'll play H-back, so he's a strong lead blocker. He can play fullback. You'll see him as a lead block on a lot of runs, a lot of stuff at the goal line. Big 6'4" frame. He's really physical, and he can play nasty at the line of scrimmage. He can sustain blocks, he can make holes at the goal line, but then you can flex him out. Between this year and last year, he's got 6 touchdowns, so as part of their red zone scheme, he's very reliable, and he's just more athletic than people give him credit for. Like I say, he doesn't look overly fast or strong or big, but the hands are solid, and I feel like he has been someone Sam Hartman has really relied on at times. Like I say, outside of the flashy pass catchers, this guy does real dirty work. Like I say, he He's more athletic. He's a better pass catcher. He can be more of an offensive dynamic weapon than he's been asked to do. But he does the dirty stuff really well. And in that sense, like I say, he's really grateful for the opportunity he gets. But we don't have that. Like I say, we carry the fullback that doesn't, I think, offer too much on the offense side of the ball. I feel like this is a young man that can not be Kyle Juszczyk, but you can kind of use him in that mould. He will do the dirty stuff like Pat Ricard, but he will then be out as a tight end, as a pass catcher, good in the goal line, good in red zone where his bread and butter is, strong frame, and can gain a lot of experience. And he's been a really key part of what one of the best offenses in the nation's been for the last 2 years. So I feel like picking up a tight end in the middle round, one of those projects, could be really good. And he's one of those guys that has got a lot of everything. He offers something on all parts of the game.
All right, round 5, going running back and tight end. So, right, I'm going to snake it straight back to you. So we've got two picks in the 6th round. Who's your first?
My first one is I'm going to address the guard position. I'm taking Henry Bayanivalu, right guard from Washington, 6'7", 315 pounds. 4 years experience. He came in as a freshman in 2018, played 3 or 4 games, played at left tackle, left guard, gave up no sacks. Moved to guard in 2019 and 2020, where he moved over to right guard. He made like 6 starts and then 10 starts, no sacks. So between 18, 19, 20, he did not give up a single sack and did an entire 3-year career. This year, played nearly all snaps. He's allowed about 10 hurries and to date 3 or 4 sacks. Now, that's not his issue, like you say. He's played 4 years of good football in a strong offensive line. Washington produced good linemen. He's played a plethora of positions on the left-hand side, but they found a long-term at right guard, kicked him over. Big frame. He's a bit tall. People like to get underneath him. But I'd say for the amount of workload he's doing this year, he's given up the odd sack. He's given up a few hits, but I'd say across the whole body, there's something to work with there. There's a good prospect. I feel like he could be a potential suitor or replacement for Halapali Vartai one day. He just needs a bit of work, needs a bit of ironing out, but he started as a freshman, worked his way through, and from 18 to 20, pretty much mustard. Like I say, there was no issues on the offensive line at all, and has played all over. So I feel like someone that you won't plug him in straight away, but I feel like if you give him a chance, I feel like he could be someone that a right tackle is able to help. It's Sue, if it's Decker, someone that he can benefit from. But this guy's probably got some of the most experience at the right guard position, and it is a position I'd like to address next year.
Yeah, no, agreed. I tried to find a route for one into mine, but I couldn't, but that might well change. Big Airy said the same in the Twitch chat. He goes, do you guys see a guard late 3rd, early 4th? Well, kind of Ryan's answered it. He's taken 6th, but we can see a guard in there for sure. It's going to be a position, but it just depends. You know, there's that many holes to fill. Where'd you go first? And the offensive line's pretty decent, so I don't know. As long as we fill the holes and we get the right guy, then absolutely, that's right. If Hal stays, you can train a guy behind him for the long run. Right, my first 6th round pick. I'm double dipping linebacker this time. I'm taking, and I can't believe I'm taking him this low, but that's where he's fallen to this year. Mohamed Diabate, the linebacker from Utah. I had him, very high expectations for him this year. He went to Utah to replace Devin Lloyd. Kind of an all, a little bit of everything linebacker there. Thought he'd settle in well. He's had a slow start there. He had a concussion as well, which it wasn't a major one, but he missed a little bit of time with injury there. But this guy is the perfect, if he falls to this level, which he might do, he is the perfect project to take going forward. So he is a rangy sort of athletic linebacker, another that can work sideline to sideline, close that distance in a hurry. Very, very aggressive when it comes to his tackling. That's how he kind of, I said, did get the concussion earlier in the year. Maybe it was a bit too aggressive, but still, if you hone it in a little bit, it's a great phase for him. In man coverage, he's pretty good. He could be a lot better given his size, but this is why you're drafting him in the 6th. If you develop him right, you are potentially going to get a do-it-all man coverage linebacker late in the draft. Now, it doesn't happen that easy. It takes a lot of work, So there is a lot to do here. The block deconstruction does need work, but he has the physical skill set to be able to do so. He just needs the right coaching and the right guys around him. You've seen what Emrod's done here this year. He's really flashing with that really well. And yeah, I just like the upside to this guy so late in the draft in the 6th round. He could still break out this season. You could still see him shoot up a draft board with a strong end to the year, especially if Utah sneak into a Pac-12 title game. But yeah, I'm picking him here at this point. This seems to be where he's at the minute. I think you've got a potential star, maybe another Emrod type this year. So I'm looking forward to seeing him, hopefully, if we can get him that low. So yeah, Mohamed Diabate, the linebacker from Utah, more of an outside linebacker, but still, we could really do with him. And our last pick for me in the 6th round, I'm picking a kicker. We ain't got anyone after this. I would prefer for us to trade back at some point, get a kicker, get a pick later so we can take a kicker, but I'm taking one in the 6th. I'm going to take Jake Moody from Michigan. We want a kicker who is familiar with the conditions up in the Midwest. We play a lot around there. He has been quite clutch for the Wolverines. He's missed a few this year, which is slightly concerning. I will keep my eye on it. But he is the kicker I would really want at this point. Like I say, you want a guy who knows the conditions. He can kick in Detroit. Well, I know it's inside, but when you go to Green Bay, when you go to Minnesota, Chicago, you're used to those conditions. He's usually very clutch, played well on a good Wolverines side. He's come up clutch for them in games. And we really need a kicker, so I would happily spend a pick on one this year, especially on day 3. So I picked Jake Moody, the kicker from Michigan, to round out my draft. Ryan, who have we got to round things out?
Last pick in round 6, and this is a flyer project. Now, this was hard because in South Dakota State Jackrabbits, they've got 2 wide receivers. They're both brothers, Jaden and Jackson Yankee. Now, I'm going to take Jaden. Now, they both list at 6'2", 210. Jaden, across 3 years, averages 16.2 yards a reception, has 17 touchdowns. Jackson has, across 4 years, has 20 touchdowns, 14.4. They are both basically identical. Now, they both do the dirty work of blocking. So I'll probably take Jaden because he's got higher across one less season. Now, there's a year between them, but they're both outside receivers that block incredibly well. They're physical, they're strong, they can go downfield and get the ball, but they can also work shallow to intermediate routes to work well across the middle. They're very experienced. You won't find either of them many more experienced like guys at the FCS level. And I think that one of them is worth throwing a 6th round pick at. Like I said, it could work their way into this wide receiver room, and I've really enjoyed watching them. They've been part of one of the most potent offenses in the last few years. They've been a big reason why they're so successful against North Dakota State in the last few years. At least one of them usually has a good game. Now, pretty much interchangeable. Look alike. They've got the same physical assets. They're almost the same size and weight. Have a similar offense style. They're rugged. They're strong. They can play the screen game. If you want to throw it outside, they will go out and do the block, do the dirty work. Both got great hands, and they're very reliable, and have both got big bodies of work, a successful program, and one of them probably could have made the step up at least to FBS if they wanted to and try have a go, but I think they are the kind of guys, a project on the next level. Someone that you can stash away in the practice squad if you need to, but could be, let's say, Tom Kennedy come in relief, but yeah, I'll take Jaden, but don't surprise me if either of the Yankee brothers are both drafted this year.
And we will find out in a few weeks when we come back to it whether we still hold the views or not. So those are our mock drafts. I'll quickly read mine out in full. Ryan, you do the same with yours, just to remind everyone. So, not in particular order. Will Anderson Jr. to start off, then Quentin Johnston, the wide receiver from TCU, Devin Witherspoon, the cornerback from Illinois, followed by KJ Jefferson, the quarterback from Arkansas, Ventrell Miller, the inside linebacker from Florida, followed by the running back Israel Abanikanda from Pittsburgh, then the linebacker Mohamed Diabate from Utah, and finish it off with kicker Jake Moody from Michigan. Ryan, just a quick recap of your guys.
I've got number 1, CJ Stroud, quarterback for Ohio State. 20, Isaiah Foskey, defensive end, Notre Dame. Round 2, Joey Porter Jr., defensive back corner, Penn State. Zach Charbonnet, round 3, running back, UCLA. Diane Henley, inside linebacker from Washington State, round 4. Blake Whitehart, tight end, Wake Forest from round 5. And then round 6, I've got Henry Navalu, guard from Washington, and Jaden Yankee, wide receiver, South Dakota State Jackrabbits.
There we go then. Those are the 2 mock drafts. Let us know how you think about those in the comments, etc. on there. Right, so the Dolphins podcast comes. So we are very quickly going to go through the pick watch for next week. Right, let's just do some. I'll read out the fixtures. You let me know who you're taking, and then we'll close out the show for the day. So for the upcoming weekend, our 10 fixtures I've got. So first up, number 14 ranked Utah at Washington State. Utah 8-point favourites for this one. Rye, who you got?
Washington State.
No way!
I feel like Utah's been shaky lately.
I was going to go Washington State as well. I am going Washington State as well. I'm a
Their
big
defense. They've got a solid defense.
Yeah, and I'm a believer in Cam Ward. So wow, Washington State sweep. Interesting next to Michigan one. Michigan State at Michigan. Michigan favoured by 1 billion in this one. Upset. Obviously Michigan State won the last 2. Where you going?
Michigan blowout.
Yeah, Michigan blowout. Sorry, State. Hopefully Tuck comes, but unlikely. He's going to have a dry weekend. Coastal Carolina at Marshall. Marshall favoured by 2.5. Where are we going, Ryan?
Ooh, I'll take Coastal.
Ooh, so am I. They're 2 hit and miss sides. I just don't trust either of them, but I don't trust Marshall more. I trust Coastal. So yeah, Coastal sweep. Kentucky at Tennessee. Tennessee 13.5-point favourites. We get to see Will Levis v. Hendon Hooker, potential future Lions quarterbacks. Pick there. Kentucky are underdogs by 13.5 points. Who you got?
Tennessee. That defense will probably hurt Will Levis.
See, I want it to be Hendon Hooker and Tennessee, but I feel like everyone wants it to be Levis, given him, potentially higher in the draft. But no, screw it. Kentucky have burned me enough. Tennessee 2 for me. TCU at West Virginia. TCU favoured by 7, but West Virginia very good at home. Head coach is hanging on, even though they got blown out by Texas Tech last week, I think it was. It's still hard to bet on them there. And TCU, when's it going to end?
Not this week. TCU just. It could be close though.
I'm going to say JT Daniels gets it done. West Virginia for me. Oklahoma State at Kansas State. This is a pick'em. This is evens basically on both sides. Adrian Martinez is possibly expected to play. Looks, he's favoured towards playing. Who you got? OK State are so up and down.
I'll take Oklahoma State.
I'm going to take Oklahoma State as well. There's a lot of these though. I feel like I've done a bad pick watch this week because everyone else is picking the same teams. Notre Dame at Syracuse. Q's 2.5-point favourites. ND, who knows what the hell you get with them. Where you going?
I'm going to say Notre Dame upset.
So am I. I think everyone's written off Notre Dame, and I feel like this is the game that would upset Syracuse. So yeah, I'm Notre Dame as well. Illinois at Nebraska. Illinois 5.5-point favourites. Obviously best scoring defense in the nation, but Nebraska, despite all their woes and troubles, this will be one of the better offenses they have come up against. Anthony Grant, Casey Thompson, decent offensive line there. Illinois favoured by 5.5 on the road. Who knows what the hell happens in the Big Ten? Who you got?
Screw it, I'll take Nebraska.
Oh, we're thinking a lot alike today, even on the mocks. I'm going to go Nebraska as well. I would want Illinois to carry on being great, but they've got to slip up somewhere along the line. Pittsburgh at UNC. UNC favoured by 4. Pittsburgh on the road. Who you got?
Odd that I'm going to say Pittsburgh. I don't trust UNC whatsoever.
I trust Israel, but I don't trust Keaton. And I'm going to go UNC. I believe in Drake May, but I wouldn't be surprised if they lost. And the last one, surprisingly a pick this one is, Cincinnati at UCF with their literal just running, pick-em throwing quarterback there. But this is evens. Cincinnati on the road, who you got? See, these are trap games. Everyone's going with the favourites in these and the rest of the pick watch, but I think they're a lot harder than just, initial impressions.
I'll take Cincinnati. I think they'll stop the running powerhouse of UCF.
After the amount of crap you've talked about Hooker this year at quarterback there, it would not surprise me if he threw like 5 touchdowns in this game. Oh, have I got you? Oh God, have I lost it? Oh damn it, I think I've lost the stream. Have I lost the stream or have I lost Ryan? Are you there? Can anyone still hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, I've got you. Yeah, I've got you. I lost you for a minute there. Alright, we're back. Alright, very quickly finish. Yeah, after the amount of rubbish you've talked about him this year, I won't be surprised if he dropped 5 touchdowns on Cincinnati, but that's just the way it goes. So yeah, we're both... I'm going to take Cincinnati as well, so that's Cincinnati for us there. Right, that is everything. Sorry we can't do a little bit more, but we've got to get through onto the Miami Dolphins preview for this evening. Thank you to everyone who's joined and commented this evening. Really enjoyed having you on Twitch and on YouTube. Hope you enjoyed our mock drafts on as well. Big Aries goes, when I run one, it's what position I think the Lions need. I'm not breaking down film. No, I don't blame you. If you start breaking down film for everybody, it takes forever. But yeah, we appreciate all of you joining. We are going to sign off now. We will be back shortly talking Miami Dolphins at Detroit Lions. So thank you everybody who has joined us this evening. Our next show will be next week, obviously. We'll be doing a Week 9 review, a Week 10 preview, and we'll be breaking down the conferences, looking at bowl games, potential championship games, everything like that. You can find us everywhere, Roar of the Lions UK, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, all those regular places. Not going to draw it out because we need to get on and moving with the next stream. So thank you ever so much all. If you're going to pop across and join us on the Detroit Lions one, then we'll see you again very shortly. If not, have a wonderful weekend, and we shall see you again on the College Football Podcast next week. Until then, it just remains for me to say thank you and one pride. Oh, thank you, Jamie Clark. Thanks, guys. Interesting stuff as always. Appreciate it. Right, see you soon.